We all know that AI is creating ripples of change through the business world. Today on the podcast, I'm speaking to Shaun Townsend of Lockeroom Gyms about how they've been able to leverage AI to create $220,000 of savings in their expenses. Today, we're going to chat about how exactly they've done that and the things that you can do to start to create cost efficiencies in your own business. Let's dive on in. Welcome to the Intentional Money Show, where we talk business growth, profitability, mindset, and building a wildly successful creative or digital business without sacrificing your life in the process. I'm Clare Wood, business profit coach, speaker, author, and unapologetic believer that you can build wealth and freedom doing work you genuinely love. Each week on the podcast, we dive into the strategies and honest conversations that will help you scale sustainably, increase your profit, and build a business that actually feels good to run. Let's grow your profit. A big warm welcome to the podcast, Shaun Townsend. He is from Lockeroom, and I'm going to hand over to you, Shaun, and let you intro yourself to the listeners.
Awesome. So my name's Shaun. I'm the head of technology and operations at Lockeroom Gym. We started in about 2020, so perfect timing to open a gym was smack in the middle of COVID. Yep. So locations that we have, luckily we made it through that patch, but that was 2021 approximately. And then we've just opened up our Melbourne location. So we've got Bridge Street in Circular Quay. We've got Blythe Street, so it's about 150 meters up the road. And then we've got the Melbourne location now as well. Lockeroom's basically, it's like an executive personal training facility that basically is designed for founders and executives. So very high service, very high touch point personal training that allows people to flexibly book anytime throughout the week.
And it looks absolutely beautiful from the website. I'm excited to come in and actually see it with my own eyes as well while I'm down in Sydney. So tell me how I had just a little bit about the involvement of Lockeroom. So obviously there's now multiple locations. How many staff are part of the organization?
Yeah. So we've got about, I'd say 15 to 20 coaches now, and it's about 30 total staff. So it's quite a big operation, a lot of people involvement. And there's a lot of touch points. It's like a very high service focused gym. So definitely the model is more so keep the churn as low as possible, high service level. And it's very, I guess it's against the tradition of the big box gyms where it's high sales content and just churns through. It's less of a sales machine and more of a retention machine, you could say.
Oh, I love that. And so talk to me about some of these high touch points. What exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, like when a member starts with us, they'll have their nutrition call, their nutrition consult. They get given their own RM, like their results manager. And then, basically that results manager is accountable towards their goal. So rather than signing up to a gym and you get all the bells and whistles with facilities and this and that, it's more so about the coach driving you towards the outcome and the result. And probably the biggest point of difference would be our flexible booking. So basically it's like you're unable to make a class. Executives, oftentimes, if you're working with a good personal trainer, they would have their books full. But instead, we've got our team so they can schedule into a different time slot throughout the day. And I'm sure we'll talk about it today, but there's so many more opportunities to make that an even better experience with AI. That's becoming even more of our point of difference as well.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And so let's go straight on in and start talking about AI. At what point did Lockeroom decide that, hey, this is something that we need to be looking at as an organization?
Do you reckon anyone decided that needed to be? It feels like everyone just had to in some ways.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. To be honest, though, I reckon it was actually personally for me about 3.5 years ago. So I was obviously doing a lot of the operations, and a lot of the operations is understanding numbers that's in front of you. And my personal light bulb moment was basically anytime I got a number, it was almost a little too late. It was very reactive. It was hard to get proactive information. And oftentimes that was just a data problem. Like how clean is the data coming in? And then how easy is it to then present the number that you're after? So even before AI, it was like we went through a bit of a data restructuring about 18 months ago. But basically the purpose behind that was the fact that we needed to see numbers more visible, more in front of us so that we can make better decisions. And honestly, AI is just a massive expander on that, really.
Yeah. So what originally it was about how can we get better data to be able to understand the financial performance of the gyms, and then where's it gone from there?
Yes. Where's it gone from there? I'm sure it will probably be in the title of this podcast. One of our biggest achievements from the AI implementation has been our cost savings that we've been able to implement. So within the 6-month period where we've really gone ham with our AI implementation, which has been from January until now, we've been able to save about 220K in the recurring expenses. But being able to save about 220K in our recurring revenue is probably our biggest highlight right now. And obviously being able to even track that data is one element of having the good data in the first place. The easiest ways that most people are thinking of right now is like the SaaS tools, cutting that down. But some flow-on effects from that have been like how that's been able to, what I would say, consolidate the attention of people who are like before. So previously, like you'd have let's say a SaaS tool that fit a particular need. And then eventually business adapts like it always does and needs to work in some other solution or work on feedback. And then you'd need to add another SaaS tool. The next thing that starts to sprawl, both in costs, but also like the staff have to learn this new tool. And then maybe the ball gets dropped because they didn't have to log in or waiting on this other item. And next thing you know, the inefficiency starts to add up as well.
So talk to me about that. For some of the listeners who aren't familiar with the term SaaS, what exactly do you mean by this?
Software as a subscription service, basically, or software as a service.
And so what are some examples of what software you would be using in a gym environment?
So at one point, like we were using, let's say, ClickUp for project management. We have a booking system. So we were using, I think, Wellness Living. It was like a way to book in the sessions. For us in the health and fitness space, it was like a training app. So it's how they log their workouts. There'd be like another one where it was about their bloods. So you can see how it already starts to sprawl. You've got like HubSpot for CRM style activities. Like it starts to add on pretty quickly, but a lot of them have very good use cases and like pain points that they're solving. And ultimately I'd say the net benefit ends up generally good, but it does start to accumulate over time where at some point you might be in the growth trajectory of 6-7 figures and you're like, hang on, this is starting to really add up. We need to start to address this.
Oh, I feel like it happens to every business owner. It's one of the big things that I'm always, I'm a numbers gal. So I'm always in my clients' profit and loss reports with them. And I'm like, look at these subscriptions. And I'm actually finding that there's also this messy middle ground of people then buying all of the AI tools. And then I'm going to try out this new thing and I can create my own videos. And suddenly I'm like, whoa, now you're spending a ton
do you
on
need to create your own videos? Is it like... So I was wondering whether we would end up talking about that today. It was like how to actually get it into a business. So I think a lot of the businesses are like just doing the broad stroke approach. And I think a lot of that does come from an executive maybe just not really understanding what it is. And so they're like, hey, everyone, here's this tool. Hopefully it makes your lives better. And I think we upgraded our Gemini subscription mainly for the nutrition call, just to be able to have the recording and send it off to the clients and help them out with their strategies. That includes a Gemini subscription, but the actual uptake from team members, that's almost, I reckon about 20% maybe use it on a regular basis beyond asking a shopping list, curating certain items in their personal life. So it's not really what drives the business in terms of saving themselves money.
Okay. So you've started to touch on that. So one of the tools you use is obviously Gemini. Have you become quite Google centric or do you have a suite that you are using?
No, funnily enough, it's not particularly Gemini, to be honest. Like a lot of the savings I would say across the team was like in the stuff that we've actually built to augment the workflows that already exist.
And so what does that look like?
Yeah, a great example would be that previously I mentioned before, there's a training app and then there's a booking app and then there's session statistics, things that a lot of the team members need to see. Previously, that was locked behind 3 different SaaS tools and logins and things like that. And you'd have to sign into each one individually. And so for a coach to actually do that, they're splitting their attention each time and generally a ball will get dropped. Basically, what we did was we used AI to help us build a centralized our own tool so that basically the staff members can just look at that instead. And it's got all of those sources of information that they look at in one hit. So what we generally found was like 25% of their previous time were able to save on just keeping their attention in the one spot. And also in the past, we used to have external, let's say admin team members to help collate certain reports or items to make that life easier that we basically no longer needed.
Fabulous. So when you were developing the app, were you using an external tool to create it? Or what was the actual, you said you used AI to build something. What does that look like?
Look, I personally use Cursor and look, a lot of the build I did, it was basically using Cursor on I don't want to get too technical per se, but it's like on GitHub, and then we just host it on a hosting platform. So yeah, a lot of the work was actually done ahead of time. So if anyone was interested in actually building it themselves, it would get the data sorted, get it like one source of truth. And as soon as you're able to consolidate stuff into one source of truth, it's agnostic what model you decide to actually use or like how you use it. You basically are able to plug into your source of truth. And it's like training a really competent employee, basically. Yeah.
I love it. And so was this something you've done before, or how did you, I've seen your journey. So you started as a physio, right?
And then, physiologist. Yeah. It's a bit of a weird career path, you could say, but I think I always had a personal passion in it. When I was young, it was like, I was always the one fixing the home router and doing all the computer stuff in the household. But about 5 years ago was when I really decided that I'm going to go hard and study in this kind of area. And I guess one of the main reasons was that I personally saw there was a huge gap in the health and fitness space. That was my original intention. So a lot of the platforms there was both their data reporting, but also how they connected into other platforms. It just wasn't up to the same standard that other institutions really had. And I can understand why. If you're going to dedicate a team of developers into the finance industry versus the health and fitness, there's a lot more opportunity in that. So I think a lot of the software companies moved into bigger spaces. But I think the barrier has massively come down now. You don't need that team of 10 developers. It's like basically you get one person in a team with a bit of centralized governance and give them enough tools to be able to build things and the right human-centered approach, you'll be able to achieve a huge amount. So yeah, that barrier has massively come down.
And so was there any concerns? Like obviously you're dealing with sensitive data on people's weight and age and other fitness stats. Did you have any concerns about the safety of having this information potentially being shared on, with tools that are using information to learn to get smarter?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's why a lot of the time was spent beforehand on the database side, so that you could have a lot of those locks in place before you move into other elements. And then, yeah, for sure, like being able to go local is definitely a step ahead of where we're going, but even just keeping the data in Australia-based data centers is a big thing that we try and do as much as we can.
And so how do you, like when you were going about this process, were you really intentional about that right from the outset, or were you learning as you were going to have to put some safety measures in place here?
Look, there was definitely a bit of learning as we go, but there was also before we touched certain things, it was like, look, you can't go into this without knowing. So then it was like, learn the stuff beforehand. And then it was like, okay, implement it here. I was also incredibly lucky that I had one of our members who's quite well known in the tech space, like a 30+ year veteran. That was like basically my PT. I'd PT him in that and he'd PT me in tech. So it was very, that was an insane opportunity that only something like Lockeroom would be able to provide, honestly. So anyone who's thinking about working in Lockeroom, there's so many more things than just the job that are included that was definitely one of the many things that it was able to provide. So yeah.
That's so cool. Just the connections. It sounds like you've met some amazing people through your work there. And obviously it's taken your career path on a bit of a different journey. I want to go a little bit deeper into the savings that you mentioned, because some people might be listening and thinking an app's not right for my business, or gosh, I don't even know where to get started. What are the other opportunities that you think are available to small business owners and medium-sized businesses when they are looking to integrate and make cost savings of that magnitude?
Yeah, so it's funny because the app's almost like the end product after the other savings that happened beforehand, really. So it's like the app's almost like the bells and whistles. But it's never been easier, even just to host your own dashboard of any kind. So let's say you were saying before about seeing P&Ls for certain companies. Being able to whip that up it's not a development job now, basically. It's like, as long as you have the connection to that data, you basically just take that and put it onto, it really is as simple as that to someone who knows how to do it. And that's not really a development job anymore like an app is. So I think there is a lot of the mindset for small business owners. I think they're thinking like, oh my God, it's this big development job where I've got to interact with this team overseas. And that has completely flipped. A lot of things that you previously thought were difficult is now substantially easier. And it's not like this long build out that you used to have beforehand. And you get one person that's competent and understands business is actually probably more important than someone who's technical and knows how to write out an entire front end, back end system.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's exciting, but also scary at how rapidly it's evolving. I think even just a few years ago, you'd be like, get into coding, you need to learn how to code. And now it feels like it's almost going to become a null profession.
Which is funny because that was exactly what I ended up doing. But I'm thankful it got to the point there, because there are definitely, like, I wouldn't be able to write out the entire block of code of anything now, but it's like you understand enough to know when it's useful. And then next thing you know, it really takes off the potential. So yeah,
fabulous. And so what are the opportunities that Lockeroom's exploring next from a tech AI perspective?
Where can I start? That's how long's a piece of string at the moment. But look, a lot of things are like, there's so many amazing health and fitness tools that exist on the market, but basically we're now able to bring that in-house. A great example is just making nutrition accountability easier for all our members. It has always been a number one. If anyone's worked in the health and fitness space, they'll know how difficult it is to actually get the accurate nutrition data from their clients. It's just one of those human interactions where it's a pain to log in your food and do all that stuff. But from a coach's perspective, it's insanely helpful when you get that data. There's an app on the market. It's called Cal AI that's been leading. They have like a big sell to MyFitnessPal for like 200 mil. But basically you take a photo and it's 90% accuracy where it gets like the food tracking. That's, again, one of the implementations that we're looking to move forward with. But another one as well is just like making our booking experience way more efficient and seamless for the member. So being able to late cancel and like swap. Oftentimes in a business, it's like, it's a spot that's been taken by someone else. And so it's a bit of a challenge. You got to draw a line somewhere. But with an AI solution in there, you can oftentimes find a spot that wasn't going to be filled anyway, and then offer that spot to members, which means that everyone wins. We fill a spot, but a member's also able to get that session in that they otherwise may have lost because it was like a late cancel. So a lot of like micro improvements across the board. That really is where a lot of the cost savings come up, is in the micro improvements rather than one huge initiative that gets pushed.
Do you know what straight away I thought when you were saying about food? I was thinking about wearables and like the Google Lens. I wonder how many people are underestimating how much they're actually putting in their mouth.
That's probably why people don't like logging it, to be honest. It's like, it's right there in front of them. The maths is very clear. Okay, I haven't been doing what I need to. We've already done that wearables connection now, which is great. That was actually one of Jeremy's recommendations. Terra is a great company that helps us with a lot of that health data integration. But yeah, there's definitely like another step to that for sure.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. And so if people are wanting to get started, let's assume that people are dabbling with a bit of, ChatGPT, helping them write their copy. And they're like, how can I fully be integrating? And I want to be getting huge cost savings like Lockeroom. Where would you recommend that they get started?
So probably a couple of buckets of people. I would say if you're a complete beginner and you're just using the chat for any AI model, I would start exploring like projects or like gem style systems. They're basically like every AI model actually operates a lot the same. So it might seem daunting that there's all these different models out there, but they're all basically following a very similar pattern where you've got, let's say it's a project. And what happens in a project is that you can then organize like context within that project for certain purposes. Probably the easiest one to explain to small business owners would be like a graphic design project where you put in your brand kit, you put in like typography, you put in examples, you put in instructions, like these are the types of content that I want to create. And then basically each time you feed something in there, it'll then generate it out consistently. So it's basically like, what's your input? And then what kind of consistent output do you want? And if you go about that process in almost every element that you're after, you'll notice that there's a lot of patterns that you can then start to basically systemize. And the funny thing is, it is very similar to your own human resources department. Effectively, it's every time you have someone come on board onto your team, typically there's an input that they're working with, and then typically there's an expected output that you want to have. If you don't have clear expectations on them, next thing you know, there's a mismatch in expectation, then oftentimes there's a bit of a disagreement. And so oftentimes people are disagreeing with their AI because they haven't really been clear on what the output is, or it's not like a consistent input.
Yeah, for sure. Another big thing that I think is invaluable is getting fresh eyes, because a lot of times when you're in your business and you're looking and you're like, there's nothing I can move, there's nothing I can cut. And someone can come with fresh eyes and say, hang on, this could be replaced here, or there's a new tool that can
Yeah.
completely eliminate your need for that level of subscription. And so I do think that there's a lot of value as well in getting someone independently to come and
Yeah. And I think as well, it's a lot of what I've found even with AI is like it goes against a lot of business principles sometimes because it is something that is fundamentally changing how everything is operating. And like your previous assumptions of what might have worked in a business no longer may apply. Previously, you might have thought, okay, this WhatsApp agent that we're talking about who can help with bookings, like I'd need to hire someone overseas who's able to work between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. As a result, you're like, no, that's not really going to work, etc. And you kind of discount it. Whereas instead, it's no, that's actually now available. And it's like, we're actually able to plug into that data because we've taken it out of whatever SaaS tool that we had beforehand, and we now own that data set. So it's like a lot of things you can, yeah, I guess reassess your own biases that you had towards it.
Absolutely. One of my clients was a trainer, and immediately something that springs to mind as well. So she used to have this WhatsApp group where people would contact her all the time, and the kind of clients that she had were messaging her on the weekends and things like that. And now you'd be able to extract all of her previous messages, her style, her formulas, the way that she would communicate back, and people would be able to have a 24/7 chat with a version of her.
Yeah, it's funny that it is funny that you mentioned that because it's funnily enough, like again, my point of view, maybe some people will go like in a different path, but I feel like that's probably the one area that you'd like to not automate in a way. So the reason that I think that is like, that's the part that people are interacting with. That's a human element. So it's that if you can automate everything else, for example, it's like you take the feedback from that person that you've been talking to directly and you plug that in, and then you have your system built out so that the output becomes a really nice program that's based on the feedback that comes in. That way, it's like, if it ever does come out that you're using AI to communicate, like the trust is basically broken and you can't like repair that trust once that's done, unless you explicitly say it's AI. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I recently had my first experience of buying a membership with that kind of functionality.
Yeah.
And I was very skeptical. I'm a very human-centric person. I hate getting, like many people, guff responses from AI. And I had multiple conversations. I was like, wow, like you would not know that you're not talking to a human here. It was flawless. I also had an experience where I was interviewed again by, and years ago, I would have said, absolutely not. I think it's weird. And again, I'm like, it was seamlessly like the questions that were being leveraged and fed back in real time were incredible. And again, it's an exciting but scary development.
100%.
I've seen in the online dating world that people are using bots and going through that filtering process. And again, it's kind of creepy. But then you're also like, I guess it saves you having some of the same awkward questions that you're asking everyone again and again and filtering people out. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Bit of a tangent. Yeah, I think they banned it in China, like the AI bots. Yeah, because I think it is almost from the dating. I think it's the dating space. I think I saw on the news story, which does make a lot of sense because it's when you can train something like that to understand exactly that person's needs. Like you can even then train it to do things like give me a bit of disagreement, but not too much. Because if it's all good, then you don't believe that it's a real thing. I've seen that be part of like model training. So it can be pretty scary. So that's an area I'm not sure it would be the right implementation of AI, but yeah.
Absolutely. And sorry, I know we're going off on tangents everywhere, but I'm just thinking as well in terms of clients, in many ways, I motivate people in their business, and different people need different things, and different people need different things at different times as well. Like some people, I'm a bit of a tough love kind of coach. I know I love, for me, like when I'm training, I want someone who's giving me stick. Like I don't want someone who's like, oh, you tried your best, don't worry about it. But different people are all going to have their own unique style. So again, it's kind of crazy thinking how the tech could be tailored to different people at different, with different needs and at different stages.
I think the scariest thing is it shines a mirror in our face as to sometimes how predictable we actually are.
I know.
Like there's things coming back at me in the way that I'm actually like wanting it to. It's, I thought I was more complicated than that. But it's like, it's just,
Can you share an example?
Now it's even just the response. I was like, I thought you'd think about that. And then boom, it just gives you the response. I was like, I was thinking about that. And then, yeah, so it's really good. One of my favorite things, actually, again, a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's super useful, probably for the solo business owner more than anyone. But you can look this up online. It's called the LLM Council. So LLM Council. It's Andre Kavathi is the guy who made it. But basically, it's like a brainstorming council that you can put into any project, and it helps you audit your ideas. Because AI, I think there was like a Harvard, I think there was Harvard, the research study. It was like it agrees with you 49% more than a human would. And so, yeah, what will end up happening is it will just feed your confirmation bias over time. So it's like, oh my God, this idea is great. And then it's like, yeah, that idea is great. You should do it. It's like, it doesn't actually give you an honest opinion. But yeah, what that LLM council does, it gives a few different personalities to that AI, and then you can filter your ideas through it. It's like the contrarian, it's got the explorer, etc. If you guys look it up, I think it's an amazing tool just to help you reality check yourself sometimes.
Do you know what else? Being the cynic here, immediately I was like, there's some business genius sitting behind all of this, stealing everyone else's idea, keep feeding us suggestions and leveraging off the back of it.
That is true. That's actually true. Yeah. I remember Microsoft used to have those developer conferences, and that was how they basically got Excel. So
if I'm being really cynical here, I'd say that is how a lot of consulting firms operate anyway. I remember I was working, my background, I did work in corporate finance before I moved into this space. And I remember that we had the consulting team come in, we'd pay them an arm and a leg. Yeah. And all the 20-year-olds on the team would sit down with me and say, what about this and what about this? And I'd tell them all my ideas and go stick it all back in a report and give it to management. And they'd be like, wow, look at this. And I'm like, I have literally been saying all of these exact things to you.
Yeah, maybe it's just as I got older and more cynical, but I'm like, yeah, the consulting firm is basically, it's just paying for someone else's opinion. It's almost like, I don't want to hear my family member say this. I want someone else who's a professional to come in and then tell me. It's like,
pretty much. Yeah, interesting times. And thank you for those ideas. I think it's a really brilliant place for people to get started. If people are listening and curious to come check out Lockeroom, what's the best way to get in touch?
The best way would be on the website for sure. It's just lockeroomgym.com. All the information is there. Naturally, just by the nature of the gym, it's an application process that happens through the website. So yeah, locations are in Bly Street in Sydney and Bridge Street. So Circular Quay, about 150 meters away from each other. And then we've got one in Collins Street in Melbourne now as well.
And just what's the demographic split, gender split?
Gender split, I'd probably say a demographic split is all founders, executives, basically. But I'd say it's about 70-30 in terms of like men to women. Yeah.
And all different ages?
I would say predominantly 40 to 60 is probably the general age bracket for sure.
Yeah, cool. Amazing. I'll put the links in the show notes for today's episode. Shaun, thank you so much for sharing that story. It's really interesting to hear how you've been able to leverage and achieve such amazing savings. So thank you for your generosity and bouncing AI with me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Intentional Money Show. If you're ready for more profit, come find me on Instagram at Clare_Wood_coach. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast, and I'll chat to you again next week.